I think there are a few components of my story that I want to explore and share with you. My work experiences, my intellectual work, my passions for sports, and things about being in my 50s. First, I'll tackle the work. I was a baggage handler for 22 years for a major commercial airline. I was hired in Miami, where I grew up, and moved up north with the company. They were headquartered up there. I loved it. I got to work outside. There was a physical element to it. It paid the bills, and it was a union environment with limited management presence. But working outside included about 8 winters on the airport ramp in Minneapolis. The first winter was memorable. I worked the 3:30 to 11:30 p.m. shift. I'll always have a lasting memory of riding the employee bus across the airport ramp about 3:15 to go to work. You could see the sun setting on the horizon, if you could see it through the haze of the clouds or the snow or whatever was happening. It was usually in the teens or less, and the wind seemed to be always blowing completely sideways. And often you could see what seemed like white mist of smoke rising from the ramp. After plowing, that was the wind stirring up what was left of a recent snowfall. It was another world. And when I observed my first hailstorm, I thought, that's got to be hail. I wasn't going to ask anyone. I didn't want to sound like I was from another world. I just continued working. You always work like it was normal to work at 0 temperatures. You didn't want to say, hey, this is really cold to someone from up north. They might think you're a little not up to the task. When going outside to ride a work vehicle, I always had to initially sit upright because the seat back was so cold. And driving on the roadways was life-threatening, but I survived. It was Minnesota. Though we have the Atlantic, the beach, the best weather during the winter in the U.S., Minnesota seemed big to me. It has Lake Itasca, headwaters of the mighty Mississippi River. I was also able to work about 8 different airports, including Fort Lauderdale and Las Vegas, which I loved. I liked the bright lights. It was cool. I'm now retired from airline work. And Minneapolis is where I capitalized on resoundingly developed my love of golf, men's club events, playing with friends and coworkers, and the state amateur events. My idea of excitement is going for a par 5 and 2. My intellectual framework. I love reading and learning about things. I have a journalism degree and was a sports writer for a couple of years. That was before my airline career. Though I don't read much for pleasure anymore, I love reading. When I was younger, I loved reading some of the science fiction greats like H.G. Wells and Jules Verne. And like Victor's speech, I'm right up there with him in Planet of the Apes. Victor Simca, in his speech, he mentioned the Planet of the Apes. I'm right there with him. I read the book also. I read most of all the Sherlock Holmes stories, and of course every James Bond book by the original author. I was a teenager in the 70s and loved rock and roll. There was a place called the Sportatorium about 5 miles directly west of here that used to exist. It's now in Silver Lakes. There was no 75 back then. From Miami, you had to use 27 North to go to a rock concert at the Sportatorium. Think Van Halen, Styx, Black Sabbath. But at this point, I wanted to divulge something about me, something that nobody knows. I love disco too. Playing and watching golf are 2 of my favorite sports. And during the football season, you can find me down at Flanagan's watching the Dolphins. On being over 50, we're facing new life choices. I want to mention a couple of things that I'll never do as I'm thinking about moving forward with my life in my 50s. I will never do jello shots, and I'll never skate again. On a couple of things I will do, I will buy and wear clothing from a charity shop. I'll invite someone new for a beer, and I'll try alternative therapy. I've tried all the other therapies, they won't work. And just think of it, at age 54, I'm older than the Republic of Singapore. That's empowering. I think I'm going to go over there and tell them that. And I want to welcome my new entries into being 50. Jeopardy. They're still there, like me, Jeopardy's show on TV. But that's been canceled 3 times. And like me, I've been canceled a few times also. Gilligan's Island. I remember once when I was younger and watching and thinking what it would be like to be Gilligan's friend. And Mary Ann or Ginger, I could never make the choice. And the Daisy commercial. It ran one time on September 7th, 1964 for Lyndon Johnson's presidential race. It shows a female child pulling petals off a daisy as the ad counts down the nuclear war. And ambitions. I'm looking forward to a second career and taking online classes. I'm interested in being outside and around sports. Not bad work, but like the old saying, if you can get it. The sayings have changed. Back in my younger days, it was far out. The man, remember the man? They don't talk about the man anymore. And how about Bogart? That is a not adequately shared marijuana joint. That comes from the movie star Humphrey Bogart conducting entire scenes with a cigarette dangling from his elbow. That was cool. He stole the whole scene, but that was cool. See, back then it was cool, or it's not cool. Now you chill and bling, really, as in, really? It was far out, now it's really. And the one I don't like, it's all good. It's not all good. A lot of times it's bad, but I understand we need to adjust. My long-range ambition, start collecting Social Security. Coach Messner.